Hello, everybody. I wanted to take a moment. First off, to tell everyone I'm glad to be back. Those of y'all may have realized last week, from Thursday through Sunday, I was out for a little bit of vacation. I went for a bit of a fishing trip out to Rockport, did some fly fishing, and got thoroughly eaten by mosquitoes. And so ended up staying in the house mostly. But during this time, while I was away at Rockport, a very important COVID update came from the Archdiocese. And so since I was out, what we had decided to do was simply wait through the weekend and then address this newest COVID update once I was back. So I want to take a moment to go over with you. We have Father Ricardo once again to translate into Spanish this letter and how it is going to affect our community going forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to read the entire letter, but I am going to go through the bullet points that the Archdiocese has given us. This letter was put out on May 20th, and it's the newest of our guidelines in regards to COVID and the reopening of our masses. You may remember we've already gotten rid of the dispensation. We have gotten rid of, to some degree, having to sit at social distancing. At least we don't have to, but we are welcome to. And there were some other things that some people thought were a little confusing or a little vague. So I think this letter is going to clarify all of those questions that we have, and I think it is going to come across as some very good news. So I'm going to go ahead and go through reading this, and then I'll let Father Ricardo read through it, and then we'll talk through what will be happening here at Our Lady of Guadalupe specifically for these specific things. So bullet point number 1, the use of masks and face coverings is not required for those who are fully vaccinated. We highly encourage those who are not vaccinated to wear masks or face coverings. We will not require proof of vaccination. We also highly encourage all to be vaccinated. There are ample opportunities for this. Those who are ill are asked to stay home until they are past all symptoms for 24 hours. Pastors have the authority to grant dispensations from the obligation to attend Mass on an individual basis for those who need such consideration. Social distancing is encouraged if possible. However, it is not required at this time. All locations should continue to consider how to appropriately sanitize their facilities as needed. Hand sanitizers should continue to be available at appropriate locations. Printed materials and hymn books may return to use. Collection baskets may be passed during liturgies to members of the congregation. The offertory procession of bread and wine may resume. All ordinary and extraordinary ministers of the Eucharist are encouraged to wear masks during the distribution of Holy Communion. They are also to sanitize their hands before and after the communion rite. Holy Communion on the tongue is once again permitted. Altar servers are encouraged to return at Masses. Music ministries may return to normal as prior to pandemic, as it is a prominent element of all liturgies. So those are things that we are now able to do. There are a couple of points that the diocese is still restricting for us. These are things that are still restricted. Holy water fonts are to remain empty until further notice. At the sign of peace, the faithful are encouraged to continue to greet each other with a simple gesture, as has been the practice for the last year. The chalice is not to be shared with the assembly. So I'm going to pause for a moment, let Father Ricardo go over those bullet points in Spanish, and then we will start talking about how these points will be put into practice here at Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Con respecto a la misa y nuestras celebraciones litúrgicas, el arzobispo ha especificado unas normas nuevas para ayudarnos a regresar después de la pandemia. El punto número 1 es que no se requiere el cubrebocas para quienes están completamente vacunados. Recomendamos encarecidamente a las personas que no están vacunadas que usen cubrebocas, pero no se va a requerir prueba de vacunación. También animamos a todos, Si no se han vacunado, que se vacunen. Hay amplias oportunidades para hacerlo. A los enfermos se les pide que se pueden quedar en casa hasta que hayan superado todos los síntomas durante 24 horas. Los párrocos tienen la autoridad de otorgar dispensas de la obligación de asistir a la misa dominical de manera individual para aquellos que lo necesiten. Se exhorta al distanciamiento físico si es posible, pero el distanciamiento social ya no es requerido. Todos los sitios van a continuar siendo desinfectados adecuadamente. Los desinfectantes de manos deben permanecer disponibles en lugares apropiados. Los materiales impresos como libros y libros de cantos pueden volverse a utilizar. Y las canastas para la colecta se pueden circular nuevamente en la congregación. La procesión del ofertorio de pan y vino puede comenzar otra vez. Se anima a todos los ministros extraordinarios de la Eucaristía a usar cubrebocas durante la distribución de la Sagrada Comunión y de desinfectar sus manos antes y después del rito de comunión. Nuevamente podemos recibir la Sagrada Comunión en la boca. Se exhorta a los monaguillos a regresar en las misas. Los ministros de la música pueden volver a la normalidad como antes de la pandemia. Unas restricciones todavía continúan en nuestras celebraciones en la misa. Esas son que la agua bendita todavía no va a estar de nuevo para nuestro uso en las entradas. El signo de la paz se recomienda que haga un simple intercambio, un gesto de paz como lo hemos estado haciendo. Y el cáliz no debe compartirse con la asamblea.
Okay. So we do want to go over how these will be put into practice in our masses here at Our Lady of Guadalupe. From what I have been told, prior to COVID, we were a standing room only church. We had 600 to 800 people coming to every one of our masses. You are still welcome to come to any mass that you want. We do not have any restrictions in regards to how many can attend. We will not ask you to sign up to come to Mass. While if you would like to social distance, you are welcome to, but we are not going to require, simply due to the vast number of people that we expect are going to be needing to be able to have access to coming to the masses. So that's one point that I want to make sure that we understand, is that we are not going to restrict anyone from being able to come to Mass. If you are not wearing your mask, we are going to assume that you are already vaccinated. I am not going to ask you, neither will the ushers, if you have received your vaccination. The diocese is hoping that we will do so in good faith, that if we have not received the vaccine, that we will consider wearing the mask still. Father, if you want to go through that point.
Nuevamente, y después de que ya no tenemos la dispensa, la iglesia, como acabamos de escuchar, va a estar completamente abierta. No tenemos ninguna restricciones. El uso de las máscaras es, como acabamos de leer, algo que es opcional, pero para aquellos que han recibido la vacuna, pero no vamos a pedir prueba de que hayas recibido tú la vacuna si vienes sin máscara. Y estamos invitando a todos que regresen. No vamos a tener distanciamiento social.
Okay. So for those who are ill or at risk, as has been the case, if you are caring for a sick loved one, the dispensation doesn't fall, or the requirement to go to Mass doesn't fall upon you. That has always been the case in the life of the church. If you are a caretaker for someone who is ill, who cannot take care of themselves by themselves, or with very small children, you are not required to have to come to church. Now, I will say, I love having your children in Mass. I love hearing them, seeing them, watching them. I have never in my 7 years as a priest had where I found a child to be a disruption to me during the Mass. So please understand that I have never in 7 years asked someone to remove a child, and I don't plan on ever doing so. With that being said, if you do feel you need to be dispensed, maybe you are still highly at risk or different things, you are able to set an appointment with me, and we can on a one-to-one basis give you a dispensation for a small period of time and then revisit that later on. On top of that, I want to remind everybody, we do have the Homebound Ministry here at the church. If you or a loved one is one of those who is not able to drive or come to church, we do have the Homebound Ministry where you can call and ask to be added or have a loved one added to that list to have communion brought to them in the home. What is very important is that the person or an immediate family member has to ask for it. Just because Father Ricardo or myself may know someone is not doing well, we cannot ask to have them added to the list. It has to be the person or their family member. So even if you have someone who is out of town, maybe you are a person who lives here in our boundaries, and you have a loved one who lives in the Diocese of Austin, where you grew up and now maybe has developed a little bit of dementia, is staying at home. Call their church and ask to make sure they are added to the list, that a Homebound Ministry per visitor can come to visit them. So that is also an option. So I can personally give a dispensation if we need to. The Homebound Ministry is still available for those who are needing to stay home. This doesn't mean you're going to miss Mass for a couple of weeks for vacation, or you're just going to be missing Mass because you're recovering. Let me get on Homebound Ministry for a couple weeks and then go back to Mass. Homebound Ministry is a long-term solution. So if we are going to be missing for a couple weeks, then we simply miss for a couple weeks. But Homebound Ministry is meant to be a little bit more of a long-term way to allow us to stay connected to those who are not physically able to come to Mass at this time.
Nuestro párroco les recuerda que él puede otorgar una dispensa para aquellos que todavía están vulnerables en su sistema. I don't know the word for the nervous system. Si todavía están vulnerables a enfermedades, están en tiempo de recuperación, que él puede otorgar una dispensa de la obligación a la misa, como el párroco. Pero esto no es... pero también tenemos la opción, por ejemplo, a aquellos que están en sus hogares cuidando de un ser querido que está enfermo, o una persona que ya está enferma y no puede salir de la casa. La obligación de atender a la misa no aplica para ellos. Siempre ha habido dispensa en la iglesia para aquellos que están cuidando a un ser querido que está enfermo, o si tú mismo estás enfermo en tu casa. Para estas personas los invitamos a que hablen a la oficina. Tenemos un ministerio que va a traer la comunión al hogar, y esto es con cierta frecuencia. Entonces, si tú estás en esta situación, tu mamá o tu papá o un ser querido ya no puede salir de la casa, ya esto no es para aquellos que están enfermos por unas semanas. Estas son para las personas que ya están en una etapa de vida que no pueden venir a la iglesia. Podemos llevar la comunión ahí, hablando a la oficina y poniéndolos en la lista. El padre Scott pide que aquellos que sientan que tienen una razón por la cual deben de tener una dispensa de la obligación a la misa, que por favor hagan cita con él y platiquen con él para recibirla.
I would also like to remind, if you are, let's say you are going on vacation. We're all looking at going on vacation here in the summer. And so you are going somewhere where there is no opportunity for going to Mass. Maybe Carnival Cruise Line has opened up again and you're going to go on a cruise. Usually those wrap around a weekend. If there is no opportunity to go to Mass, it does not count as a sin against you. The way that it becomes a sin in regards to breaking the obligation to go to Mass is if we have the opportunity and the ability to go to Mass and we willingly choose not to. Now let's take this a step further. You decide you're going to go on vacation to the beach for the weekend. There are plenty of churches in Corpus Christi or on Rockport or at South Padre at the beach. If we don't plan in going to one of those churches, plan in Saturday afternoon, go on Sunday in the morning before we head home. there it could very possibly still fall as a sin for us for missing that obligation to go to church. So if you're going camping and you go up to the mountains and there is no church within 3 hours, there is no obligation because there is no mass. Now, if you want to do that, invite Father Ricardo. He is portable church. He can do mass wherever you want to go, and I'm sure he'd want to go on a cruise with you if you invite him. But so keep that in mind as well, that this obligation does have some things that we have to look at. You do not take a vacation from the obligation. The obligation doesn't make it a sin, though, if we go somewhere where there is no opportunity to go to church.
El Padre Scott nos recuerda que la obligación de atender la misa siempre es cuando hay oportunidad y la habilidad de atender. Por ejemplo, si estás en una situación donde no hay oportunidad o estás en viaje o cosas así, entonces no hay oportunidad ni habilidad de atender, la obligación no aplica.
Okay. Our next point, that all locations should continue to consider how to properly sanitize facilities. We, at least for the next month, and we will then reevaluate in the end of the month, will still sanitize between every single Mass. So we will still have our cleaning crew here throughout the weekend, sanitizing and cleaning the church between every single Mass.
Vamos a continuar desinfectando nuestra iglesia después de cada misa. Esto vamos a continuarlo en el siguiente mes, pero después de este mes vamos a reevaluar la necesidad de desinfectar cada misa. Pero por el momento vamos a continuar desinfectando después de cada misa.
Okay, the next point that is on the list is that we are allowed to have our miscellanets and hymn books back in the pews. So what that means, first off, is no one has really ordered anything in about a year. The miscellanets, you may remember, are seasonal. They come out at different times. So the stuff that we had, if you were thinking, we'll just put back what we had before COVID, it's expired. It's not usable. So at this time, we are at the moment in the process of ordering new miscellanets and hymns books to match and work together. On top of that, we are looking at a plastic cover that will help protect the hymnal and the miscellanette and keep it in one container. That may mean, we haven't been able to check yet, that it may not fit in the pew itself in the little cubby hole. So we are also looking at potentially getting some book stands to put in the back of the church, where as you come in, you grab a book, you go to your pew, and then you take it back to the book stand at the end of Mass, because you are no longer required to enter through one set of doors, exit through others. You are now able to enter and exit through whichever doors you wish. So books are coming. We have to place the order. We are going to have the covers. Hopefully the next couple of weeks you will begin to see hymnals and miscellanets back in the pews here at the church.
Estamos en el proceso de encontrar libros de canto y libros que contienen las lecturas. Vamos a tenerlos nuevamente en las bancas. Todavía no los adquirimos, entonces estamos en el proceso de tener esto en nuestra iglesia otra vez.
Collection baskets may be passed. We have already been trying to figure out a good way to do collection before this rule came out. What this one means is that, as y'all may remember before COVID, the Mass coordinator would get a handful of volunteers at every Mass to help with passing the basket through the pews for the collection. This is going to resume starting hopefully this weekend, if not next weekend. We will begin getting volunteers to help pass those baskets. On top of this, I want to invite you to pray about and reflect. I would like to begin reviving or bringing back into existence a ministry that most parishes have that are called ushers. This is a special liturgical ministry in pretty much every parish, where as a volunteer, your role is to welcome people when they come to the church, help them find seats whenever the church begins to get a little bit full, and be available to help with the collection and different aspects of our liturgies. I want to begin this ministry, so please keep your eye on a bulletin and a flock note message about a beginning meeting for those who are interested in helping form this ministry. I would be looking for 5 to 10 individuals minimum from every single Mass. So this could very quickly become one of the biggest ministries here at the church, is our ministry to be hospitable and welcoming to people that are coming to our church, as well as helping make things flow easier. So please keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, please know that we will be needing volunteers to to help with passing the collection baskets during the offertory in our masses.
Las canastas de la colecta van a empezar a ser pasadas nuevamente, no este fin de semana, pero el siguiente. Y el Padre Scout va a comenzar pronto un ministerio de ujieres, como tenemos en muchas de nuestras comunidades, que ayudan a la bienvenida, ayudan a sentar a las personas y ayudan con la procesión del pan y vino y las canastas para la colecta. Entonces, presten atención a un anuncio del comienzo de este nuevo ministerio.
Okay. We are also going to begin starting this weekend with the procession of bread and wine to resume at all masses. This will be, as usual, set in the back of the church and will be walked to the front of the sanctuary to be given to the priest and deacon during the offertory. If you would like to be one of those gift bearers, please find the Mass coordinator so that they can then know that there is someone that wishes to bring those gifts forward. I will also put a sales pitch at this point. We are in need of more Mass coordinators for all of the Masses throughout the weekend. If you are willing to give of your time, probably at about 30 minutes before every Mass is when you would be needing to come, and your role would simply be helping set the altar, getting all of the stuff together, coordinating, make sure we have people to get the baskets for collections, and people to bring the gifts to the front for the offertory. But we are in need of extra Mass coordinators. If you are one and have not come back because of COVID, we need you. So please get in touch with Kathy if you would like to become a Mass coordinator, or if you are one that would like to get back in the rotation, please get a hold of Kathy here at the office to get involved in that ministry. But we will be resuming bringing gifts forward starting this weekend.
Empezando este fin de semana, tendremos nuevamente la procesión del pan y vino durante ofertorio. También estamos en necesidad de ministros, what do we call them? Coordinadores de la misa, sacristanes. El trabajo de estas personas tiene que ser como, se trata de venir 30 minutos antes de la misa, probablemente quedarte después, de preparar el cáliz, el pan, preparar lo necesario para la misa en el altar, de ver que estén personas ahí para ayudar con las canastas, de coordinar que esté ahí el lector, ministros de los extraordinarios de la comunión, o sea, estar presente ahí durante la misa ayudando a que preparar para la misa y ayudar a limpiar después de la celebración. Entonces, si estás interesado de ser coordinador de la misa, por favor habla con Kathy Tragos aquí en la oficina.
Bueno. So we will also begin here shortly in the next later on in June, extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. I do want to clarify one thing, because sometimes I hear them referred to as ministers of Holy Communion, stuff like that. Extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. In the church, there are two different levels in regards to ministers of Holy Communion. Ordinary ministers, which are ordained clergy, and what is called an acolyte. So ordained clergy would be any priests, any deacons, and a person who has been installed an acolyte by the archbishop through seminary formation, diaconate formation, things like that. They are ordinary members of Holy Communion. So it is their role. If they are there, they would distribute first. And then if they don't fulfill all the roles, extraordinary ministers of the Holy Communion from the laity are then called forward to help with distributing of Holy Communion. Usually in all of our masses, we have two ordinary ministers of Holy Communion, the priest and the deacon, and then we usually have at least three extraordinary ministers to help with distributing Holy Communion. As it said later in our letter, we are not bringing back the chalice where we would distribute both species. Please remember, whenever both species are there, you are not giving part of Jesus in one, part of Jesus in the other, but that we are actually able to receive Jesus twice. So while we are distributing under one species, the body, you are receiving the full body, blood, soul, divinity of Jesus Christ in that moment. And so for right now, we will probably have 5 locations for distributing of Holy Communion when those extraordinary ministers come back. There is a second training happening June 4th in the evening. Please look at our bulletin, our flock note, our website, our Facebook page. There's a lot of places that will tell you the time and location for that meeting. This is a second training for those who are extraordinary ministers. The first time was a refresher on the theology and spirituality. Our second meeting is the logistics, where you will stand, how you handle certain things. After that, we will have a blessing of all of those ministers at each masses, and we will begin using our extraordinary ministers. But that will happen a little bit later in June.
Vamos a continuar nuestra distribución de la Sagrada Comunión bajo la especie de pan, y nuevamente recordarles que al recibir solamente así la comunión no significa que esté recibiendo parte de Jesús, está recibiendo a Jesús completamente. Entonces, por el momento no tendremos distribución de la copa. El 4 de junio por la tarde tendremos entrenamiento, la segunda parte del entrenamiento de ministros extraordinarios de la Sagrada Comunión para los que están interesados de servir de esta manera, y va a haber una misa donde los demos una bendición especial para comenzar nuevamente a usar ministros extraordinarios de la Sagrada Comunión.
Now, one of the things that since I have come, and probably since the beginning of COVID, all of us as priests have encountered, are those who wish to receive Holy Communion on the tongue. Once again, starting technically tomorrow at daily masses and all the way through, you are now able to receive Holy Communion in one of 3 ways. Please remember, there are multiple ways you can receive Holy Communion. The most prevalent that we see is standing and on the hand. Prominent hand goes underneath, we make a throne, and you present your hand so that we know you wish to receive on your hand. You can also receive standing and on the tongue. Please remember how receiving on the tongue is meant to work. Your mouth is not a coin slot where we are trying to fit Jesus into. We also don't like getting our fingers licked. So please remember, the imagery for receiving on the tongue is that of a baby bird that is being fed. So the idea is that you tilt your head back, you open your mouth, and you present your tongue. So something similar to this. Doing that allows us to be able to have space to give you the host without getting our fingers licked or bit, and that has happened at times, as well as have space so that the host does not fall in the process of trying to give you the host on the tongue. Now, there is a third way you can receive. It is very little spoken about, but understand, you are welcome to. And this is, you can kneel down and receive on your tongue, or even on your hand if you want to kneel and receive on your hand. Kneeling is permitted. This is because we are asked, no matter which way you receive, to give a sign of reverence, a recognition of who it is that you are receiving. Whether you bow, you genuflect, you kneel, it is not to us priests that you are doing that, but it is to who we have in our hand and who you are receiving in the Eucharist. Because remember, as Catholics, this is not bread, or when the chalice comes back, wine. As Catholics, we believe that it is the real presence of Jesus Christ. So we are asked to physically show a sign that we recognize Him. Whether it is what's called a profound bow. Profound bow means from the waist, we bow down and we stand back up. It is a deep bow. We can genuflect. You can kneel. but we are asked to make some sign of recognition and reverence to the presence of Jesus Christ, who you are about to receive. And you are able to receive that standing on your hand or your tongue, kneeling on the hand or the tongue. So please keep that in mind, that now begins starting with all masses moving forward at this point.
Nuevamente se va a permitir, comenzando en esta comunidad mañana, recibir la Sagrada Comunión en la lengua. El Padre Scott nos recuerda que hay 3 maneras permitidas de recibir la Sagrada Comunión. Una es como lo hemos estado haciendo, que es en la mano. La segunda es en la lengua. Y la tercera es de rodillas en la lengua o en la mano.
Bueno. So, all of our altar servers are also asked to consider getting a hold of Kathy to be asked to be put back in the rotation to be serving at our masses. Please remember, tonight we do have a training for all those altar servers who wish to come back. I'm a new priest. I haven't met you yet, but I also want our altar server ministry to be one of those that other parishes look at in envy. That we have well-trained, well-organized altar servers. So I am going to be organizing and training our servers to be at the highest level we can give. You are coming to serve at the altar of Jesus Christ. That is not something we want to do casually. And so you are invited at this point to come to this training tonight to be able to see what is going to be asked moving forward, as well as to be trained if you have never been an altar server. You have just received First Communion, or maybe you haven't found a ministry you want as a youth. Consider being one of our altar servers. Come to the training tonight and get put in the rotation in the weeks moving forward.
Nuevamente tendremos los monaguillos presentes en el altar sirviendo en la misa. Por favor de hablar con Kathy Tragos para que te pongan en la lista otra vez para servir en la misa, estés en la rotación de monaguillos. Estamos teniendo un entrenamiento esta tarde. What time? Do you know?
It's at 7 p.m.
Esta tarde a las 7 tendremos un entrenamiento de monaguillos. El Padre Scott los va a entrenar para poder servir en la misa de una forma, como él nos acaba de decir, una forma que es digno de la misa. Quiere que podamos tener un sentido de la solemnidad de lo que estamos haciendo.
Okay. So as well, all choir activities are able to resume as before. So if you are one of our choir members, please know Miss Cheryl will be reaching out to be able to begin scheduling our choirs to the level they used to be before COVID.
Nuestros coros están regresando, van a regresar a su manera de cantar antes del COVID. O sea, si había uso de trompetas, instrumentos que usan viento, cantar el salmo, estamos nuevamente regresando a la manera que estamos acostumbrados aquí de cantar en la misa. Y invitar a todos a cantar durante la misa otra vez.
Good. So as well, there was that list of things that are not allowed yet. So we will still leave the holy water fonts around the church empty. Those will not be filled. Hopefully in the next few weeks we potentially will get those back. But at this point they are going to still be empty. We are also going to remind you, you are asked at the sign of peace with your immediate family. You can still give a handshake, a hug, a kiss. But for anyone that is not outside your immediate family, whether it is a wave, a slight bow of your head, giving them just the sign, peace sign. But we are asked to still not go about going to sign of peace the way we were before, as well as to please stay in your pews, not to wander and go about everywhere else. The sign of peace never has been meant to be where we share that sign with everybody in the building. But symbolically we share it with everybody by sharing with those in our immediate vicinity. So even when this permission comes back to allow us to begin shaking hands and doing that sign of peace, you are asked to please not leave your pews, but stay, exchange peace with those in your immediate area, and through with those in your immediate area, you will have shared peace with all of those in the church with you at the time.
Las fuentes de agua bendita continuarán estando vacías Y la señal de la paz, estamos pidiendo que continúen haciendo una señal, una reverencia con esas personas que no son tu familia, con las que no viniste a misa, de no caminar al otro lado de la iglesia, ir a otra banca, saludar a otras personas, de quedarte en tu lugar y de ahí puedes hacer un gesto de paz. Esto es algo que hacemos simbólicamente, no tenemos que darle la paz a cada persona en toda la iglesia, pero lo hacemos con los que están cercanos a nosotros, con un signo.
On top of this, what also comes into this is holding hands during the Our Father. Please know there is nothing in the Catholic rite about holding hands or raising our hands while doing the Our Father. Many people have begun doing so in imitation of the priest. Our hand signals, our emotions are part of the way we are taught to celebrate in the Mass as the primary celebrant. So what they call the orans, the prayer position, with our hands held up, is a position of the priest offering prayer on behalf of the community. So you do not have to copy us, and you do not have to hold hands with everyone in the community. That is also something we see with the non-Catholic churches that we see, is that is their time of unity. They hold hands during the Our Father. For us as Catholics, our time of unity is a little bit later in the Mass. Our time of unity is our coming forward to receive the Eucharist. So the Our Father is more of a personal encounter with Jesus, offering this prayer with the community in preparation for our time of unity, receiving the Eucharist together.
El Padre Scar nos recuerda que, igual que a la señal de la paz durante el Padre Nuestro, de no detener las manos de los que te rodean, durante la oración, no hay necesidad de esto, no está escrito como una participación requerida en la misa de los que están en la misa, que esto es realmente comenzó el gesto de extender las manos del Padre con el Padre Nuestro, comenzó viendo el sacerdote, porque el sacerdote dice el ritual que debe de extender las manos en la posición de orar. Entonces es el acto del sacerdote durante la misa, no de la gente. Entonces no es necesario hacerlo, no es necesario sostener las manos durante la misa.
So there is one other point. Okay, Loki. So for those who have never met Loki, you now get a chance to see Loki. He has decided he wants to be on my lap. Okay, go, move, go. There is one other point that is made on the letter in regards to things that are in regards to the regular operations of the church. One other point that I would like to make, it does mention retreats. So these are left at the discretion of the pastor. So many have been asking about the resuming of Acts retreats and things like that. I am going to be getting in touch with our Acts Corps to begin working toward allowing those ministries to resume as to before COVID, to begin working toward setting dates for retreats and setting dates to begin the teaming process for retreats here at the parish. We are also looking at starting a new retreat. So everyone is used to going to hearing about Acts, Cursillo, and different things. My spirituality is at silent retreats. And so at parishes I go to, I always try to begin to offer a silent retreat once a year for the parish community. So as well as I will begin planning to offer a silent retreat for the parish. Please keep an eye on our bulletin and our social media to when that date may be set so you can register if you would like to go on that retreat. It is not as hard as you think. Silent retreats are beautiful, and I look forward to sharing that experience with you.
Los retiros, como lo hemos tenido antes, están a la discreción del párroco, comenzarlos otra vez. Si el Padre Scott va a empezar conversaciones con ACTS para nuevamente tener estos retiros en nuestra comunidad, y también está invitando a que presten atención en el futuro. Él va a invitar al retiro de silencio, y esto sería igual como lo hacen en ACTS, a través de unos días, probablemente el fin de semana, tener un retiro que lo hará en silencio. Los está invitando a cuando pase esto, que por favor piensen en hacerlo con él.
So I do want to thank you for tuning in with us today to go over this. There is a lot of information. Please know we are also in the process of changing our live stream schedule. Starting the week of the first live stream would have been June 8th. We are going to have canceled all daily mass live streams starting the week of June 6th, which with the 8th would have been the first one. So the week of June 6th, no more daily mass live streams. We will continue the Sunday 10 a.m. live stream for the rest of June. We will reevaluate leading up to Father's Day on the 20th. If things continue the way they are, Father's Day will be the last of our Sunday live stream masses. And if we feel we still need to, we will extend. But at this time, we are anticipating Father's Day being the last of our Sunday 10 a.m. live stream masses.
Nuestros eventos en vivos van a ser restringidos también. Vamos a empezar a reducir estos eventos. Van a ser las misas, ya no van a estar en vivo empezando el 6 de junio. Todavía tendremos la misa en vivo el domingo a las 10. Pero después empezando el 6 de junio va a haber menos misas en vivo. Entre la semana no va a haber y eventos en vivo van a ser también menos. Empezando el Día de los Padres.
So once again, thank you all for joining us. I hope this information has given you a little bit of clarity in regards to everything going on here at Our Lady of Guadalupe, in regards to resuming functions here at the church as normal before COVID is really what this brings us back to. Our ability to come together, to worship, to be with one another is going to be all together as we were before. And I look forward to seeing every single one of you. Thank you all very much.